Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is RGB on the I Really Mean It podcast, coming to you on Friday, December the 29th of 2017. This is the last podcast for 2017. Thank you so much for joining and for listening and for subscribing. We've got everybody here on Facebook Live, ready to go. People are filtering in, whatnot. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, thank you so much for this year. We started this podcast in August of this year. This is our 27th episode. And so we're very excited about that, very excited about what's in store for 2018. And I just want to really thank everybody for your support. I don't have a background in communications. My background's in finance and economics and banking and whatnot. So I didn't come up, or I wasn't reared in this kind of life. So I've really enjoyed the podcast. It's given me a nice avenue to communicate with you all. It's actually helped my business, as I've stated before, whether it's real estate, whether it's consulting or whatnot, has really helped me. So thank you so much to all of you who have been extremely supportive. The inboxes, the likes, the shares, all that kind of thing. Definitely look forward to your feedback on the various episodes. Good, bad, and ugly. I'm always looking to get better, looking to incorporate more into the show for 2018. I'm just so excited right now today, and we're getting towards the end of the year. A busy week this week. Before I get into the subject matter for today, really busy week for those that are here in Memphis, Tennessee. We had an incident at one of the malls, and I'm not going to get into all that because that's not what this show or podcast is for. But many here in the local area and even some places in other cities have commented a lot on that particular situation with some young people and some violence that took place at Wolf Chase Mall. So people have given their takes on it. I'm not really here to get too much into that. We still have the situation with the murder of Lorenzo Wright and the involvement of his ex-wife, Cheryl Wright, that's still going on. People have given plenty of comments and commentary on that. So again, just to fill you in on some of the things that are happening, there's some economic development things that are going into 2018 that are really big here in the city. And so there are great things going on. Of course, we're in the holiday season. For many, that's a joyous time. For some, that's not. Definitely shout out for those who are grieving and who are in need. I've had the opportunity over these last couple of weeks to work with a family that I was really happy to do so. This is a lady who had to take on 8 children at once, 8 grandchildren. And it wasn't just about giving gifts and all that kind of thing, but really able to spend time with her and spend time with the boys and girls that she's had to take on. And man, that's very tough. She lives over not too far from the Liberty Bowl. And I had the opportunity to spend some time, again, with her and the children and really share some of my background and share some good best practices and food for thought. And it was fantastic, man. We had a really good fellowship. Definitely shout out to them. But I encourage everybody to get out and help somebody else, help another family, help young people. When I talked about the Wolf Chase situation, a lot of times we like to blame parents and we like to do this. And parents certainly play a huge role. But many of us that like to sit and be the Facebook philosophers and things like that, and we could diagnose a problem all day long. But one of the things that helps is when we all decide to mentor. So someone had to work with us. Someone had to take the time to groom us and see the best in us when we were young, right? So, everybody out here wasn't 30 and 40 or 50 years old their whole life. We were one time these same teenagers. And we didn't have the same mediums, of course, that they have now. Where when things popped off or whatnot, that it was all on social media. We didn't have that. The mall was our social media. And so I would just encourage all of us to not get too high-minded and think that we've all arrived and things like that. There are a lot of people that are out here hurting and they need to hear from us. Not waiting on the politician, not waiting on this or that, but they need to hear from us. So I just thought I'd mention that. And again, I don't want to get too much into it. So Dominic Lawson, good afternoon. Cuzzo, Greg Smalls, how you doing? What's up, Sorrel? Brittany Thornton. Yes, we're going to have Brittany Thornton on next week for next week's show. We will be live in the Orange Mound area with Brittany Thornton of Juice Orange Mound. She's a friend of the podcast, and she's been on the podcast before as a guest, and she's going to join us again, and we're going to get an update from Brittany on some of the great things that she's done through 2017 and what she's got planned for 2018 as it relates to Juice Orange Mound. So definitely excited to have her. All right, so what we're getting into for today, we're wrapping up our special series that's called Winning the Chip in 2018. As you know, for those of you that are related to sports or understand sports, that the chip means the championship. So being able to win the championship is the ultimate high, the ultimate achievement in most of the major sports, whether it's team sports or individual, is to be able to win the championship, to be recognized as the best amongst your peers, amongst your peer group, and in some cases the best in your area or even the best in the world. And so relating that to ourselves as we're planning for 2018 is really what this series is about. So 2 weeks ago, I started with Identify Yours. Last week, and thank you again for those that listened to last week's show, we had an increase in listenership and shares on last week. Last week was Plan Yours. And so this week, what I want to talk about is Execute Yours. And so at this point, you've identified, you've defined, right, what it is that you like to do, what your endeavors are going to entail, both personally and professionally. And keep in mind, I've used sports metaphors, I've used basketball, I've used football, I've used Kobe Bryant's career and with the Los Angeles Lakers and all kind of things to give you analogies on how to identify, plan, and execute in 2018. In the execution piece, this is where it becomes super critical. Execution is what separates the average from the great. Okay, so in sports, everybody in the NBA can play. And I said this several weeks ago. Everybody in the NBA can play. All the players can play. So what makes Kobe Bryant versus Ed, whoever that's on the bench for one of the teams? Talent, yes. Work ethic, definitely. But executing on, say, they all have the same information, right? Every coach teaches you how to box out, how to get into a defensive stance. Every shooting coach is going to tell you how to shoot the ball. Every coach has some kind of offensive and defensive scheme, right? Everybody has the same access to the ball on the court. The court's the same size in every arena, right? So there's a lot of homogenous things within, if you're talking about basketball, that's the same. The rules typically are the same, although some people argue that. If you ask LeBron or some of these folks with James Harden with fouls here recently, but the rules are the same, right? If you pick the ball up without dribbling it and you move, it's a travel. No matter who has the ball, right? So there's a lot of things, again, that's homogenous, but the one thing that's different is the work ethic, but then the execution of the strategy. So we talked last week about planning yours. And so now you have this strategic plan coming into this week. I've helped you to be able to think about your strategic plan. Now the big piece of it is, how do you execute, right? And for those that execute, that's where you see the difference from year to year, is in the execution. A lot of people can come up with a great plan. They can have planning meetings, whiteboard sessions, all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, again, what separates people is the ability to focus and the ability to execute. And that's what I want to help you do in this final part series as we go into next year, is be prepared to execute on your plan. One of the things that tends to happen, the reason that we don't execute, is we like to stick in the planning session. And I've said this, I've posted it on social media, and I've seen others that have posted it, where we like to primp on our pride of ownership. And so what I mean by that is we get excited about this idea and, having a business. We get excited about now we're going to get married. I'm engaged now and now I'm going to get married. So now I'm excited. And you should be. You're starting your business, you're getting married, whatever it is that you're doing, you should be excited. That should drive some excitement. If it doesn't, you got to go back to the Identified show and listen to it. So you're excited about this, but in order to execute, you've got to begin taking your plan and then doing it essentially, and not just, the kind of small time remedial stuff that comes in building, say, a business. So like I said, people that like to spend a lot of time building the logo, people who like spending a lot of time, looking at the Facebook page and primping the Facebook page and this photo and this video and, and the big thing is website, people that like to sit on Wix and on WordPress all day and, primp the website. Now they're not driving anybody to the website, so the website has no traffic, but they spend all this time trying to, build it up and get this color and this right here and that. Listen, those kind of things, that kind of approach is going to keep you stuck in the planning phase. You'll never execute, or your execution will be very weak. It won't be very impactful, and you'll find yourself getting antsy when you're not seeing the results, and you want to make a lot of changes. I've had to fight this myself. You get antsy about wanting to make changes because you spend so much time planning, and a lot of times you're limited on resources or you're limited on time. It's just you working in the business, or it's just you planning for the actual wedding ceremony or whatnot. But you got to make sure that you're spending time not so much in the kind of startup, remedial kind of phases of business cards and all that kind of thing. But you're actually, in a business sense, you're building the business. You're making contacts, right? You're building relationships, all those kind of things that help drive your business. And same thing when you're looking to get married. You can't just sit and worry about every little flower, every little place where someone's going to stand at the wedding ceremony and where they're going to be on stage or who's going to say this. The details are important with that. But if you spend so much time worrying about that, and then here's the biggest thing when it talks about what marriage is, when you spend so much time on the wedding and not the actual marriage. That's what gets a lot of people. They spend a lot of time primping on the wedding because they're so excited. They finally here's their opportunity, right? But the execution piece is, and I was telling my brother Justice Spencer today on Facebook. And most people, if you've been married, you know that the day of your wedding goes by so damn fast. Whether you have a ceremony or not, however you choose to do it. You do all this planning and there's all this back and forth and who's going to have this and who's going to be that and this vendor and that vendor. And then you get to that day. And now I'll speak for mine. Now my wedding day was June 23rd of 07. And June 22nd, June 23rd, somewhere around in there is like the first day of summer. So these are some of the longest days of the year, right? In terms of daylight, from the time the sun rises to the time the sun sets. That day flew by like that. It flew by like that. But, we got to the end of the day so quick. We were there at the Hilton here in Memphis, and we had the reception. We must have had 275 people come to the reception because there was some other event going on at the Hilton at that time. And they came and joined in. They saw us having such a good time that they just came and joined in. So it was people at the reception that we didn't even know, but they were just cool. They just came in, they were dancing, they were all over the place, giving us well wishes. We don't even know. They could have just fit in like you do at the family cookout where you just say you're your cousin and they just come and jump in, right? But man, it was off the chain. And so, there's all the planning that went into that. It was over with just that quick. Now what you have is the marriage, right? Same with your business. You get past the business cards, you get past the website, you get past the Facebook page, you get past going downtown and spending $30 on the business license. doing all this different stuff, setting up your free account with Amazon and all that. Then you got the business. So you did all that work, all that planning and all that to hopefully to execute, right? And what people tend to find out in both instances, personal and professional, is they didn't do a good job of reviewing their plan. Either they didn't identify right, which that happens particularly, it happens in business, but particularly personally, like we're talking about marriage. They didn't identify right, okay? Because you have to go back to define your reason for wanting to do it in the first place, and define your reason for wanting to do it with this person, this individual. So once you get past that, then it goes back to the planning. So somewhere in there something wasn't quite right. So what happens is, and how many times have you heard the story of people spending a slew of money on a wedding, slew of money on this place, that place? They have to have this big ring, which I'll get into rings in a second, because that was a big thing on social media this week. But so you get this big ring, you go on this big honeymoon. You got a lot of photo ops out of it, a lot of video memories, things like that. And then you get back and you got the marriage. Now you got to live together, right? Now you've got to coordinate. You've got to communicate, right? You've got to be respectful and loving towards each other. You've got to deal with each other's idiosyncrasies. You got to deal with each other's hang-ups, each other's, personal pet peeves and all these kind of things. And the big thing that you got to deal with is now you've got the pressure of responsibility and accountability. Yep, you got the pressure of responsibility and accountability. Same as with your business. Again, these all go hand in hand. So you come back from the honeymoon period of your business. You're excited. You have this nice logo. I got this nice jingle. I've got products sitting here in the warehouse. But now I've got to go do business, right? And so what happens is, again, how did you prepare, right? And now you got to run the business. Now you've got to make the phone calls. Now you got to stay late. Now you got to come in early. All the things that, that come into play. Now you got to make decisions. You're accountable. You may have to start hiring employees. So now you got to get into HR law and all these different things. So as your business expands, and you begin executing there, and as your marriage expands and you begin executing there, if you had your identification right and your plan right, then now the tough part comes in the execution. And the execution could evolve and take many different forms, right? Think about it in basketball. So let's go back to Kobe Bryant. So Kobe Bryant, he's in the NBA, right? So he's an NBA player. And he starts to get a little bit of playing time. What happened, for those of you that are sports fans, what happened with Kobe Bryant his rookie year, right? You remember the playoff games against Utah? What happened? He shot, 2 or 3 air balls in a row, right? They lost the series. First round series, I believe, against the Utah Jazz. Kobe Bryant, Shaq, and Rick Fox and all these guys. Kobe, the rookie, is in the game, right? Over some of these other guys, Eddie Jones and all these other guys. Kobe takes the shots. He's airballing them, okay? Couple ways he could have went with that. Now, what would you say? His execution wasn't there. But he had identified, he had the planning, he had been working on it, but he wasn't able to execute. So what did he have to do? He had to go back and reassess. That's the other part of execution. You go, you execute, and then you have to come back and reassess. What did he have to reassess? He had to go back, watch the film, and look at what position was he in, what was the time on the clock, who was guarding him, yada, 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 and what would he do differently next time. Same thing with all of us, personally, professionally. You have to execute. So you have to get out there and start doing something, start executing on your plan. Then you've got to look at, as you start executing, you have to also be somewhat simultaneously reassessing, right? Philip Ashley Ricks, good afternoon. Kathy, good afternoon. Zach Wiggs, what's going on, brother? Yeah, Donald Watson, yeah, those were wedding crashers, brother, when I was talking earlier. But those are some of the people, for you, if you're listening on the podcast, they're on Facebook Live on my personal page. So But so Kobe had to execute, and he had to come back and reassess. And you have to do that. In your personal endeavors, you get married, you get through the first year, right? Some people stumble through that first year. Some people, it's really smooth. Some people get a joy of, now they're expecting, they're pregnant, and now they're expanding their family in whatever way, however they choose to do it. But you're constantly reassessing. I'm in my 11th year with that. And Kay and I are always assessing, and we're always reassessing, decisions that we've made, decisions that we're looking to make, where we're looking to take things, especially now that our girls are, no longer small children and toddlers and things like that. They're elementary school age children. So they're becoming much more self-aware. They're able to take care of themselves a little bit better and things like that. And a lot of y'all have been through this. You've got kids and older kids and that kind of thing. So we're looking at, again, being long term, how are we going to execute on, things that we want to have or be tomorrow? And that takes a reassessing today. And listen, in part of your execution, you're going to make mistakes. Matter of fact, count on making a mistake. And not a mistake, mistakes. Count on it. Very few people write out a plan, thinking of last week's show, and then the execution is just flawless. How many times have you seen in the NBA where the coach draws up a play to end the half, or even more popular, a play at the end of the game, football, basketball, whatever. And the play goes really well. You get the ball to the right person, they take the right shot, and they make the shot, and they win the game. That happens. What happens more often is you get the ball to the wrong guy, or you get the ball to the right guy in the wrong position. He takes a crazy shot, he misses it, or he takes a crazy shot and then he makes it. So your execution is poor, but you get the results. That happens as well. So what you have to do then is come back and reassess, right? And then you look at how you can identify a plan and then execute better on the next go around, because there's going to be a next time. Same personally in your marriage. You go back, you reassess. First month, first 6 months, first year, first 5 years, first 10 years, first 20 years, first 30 years, wherever you are. And you go back and you reassess yourself, you reassess the other individual, right? You reassess your situation. And you say, okay, what are some areas where we were very good? So take Kay and I, for example, my wife. Where were areas where we were very good? Where we said we couldn't have done, we said what we were going to do, that was our plan, and we executed on that. That's what's up. What are some areas that were opportunities for us? Again, you're going back to your SWOT analysis from your planning time in your execution. That's part of your reassessment. Where were we strong? Where did we have some weaknesses? Where were we exposed? Was it in our view of income? Was it in our time? Is it in our job or in our business? Is it as we evolved personally in our views and our mindset? What threats do we have now? Is there a threat to our family? Is there a threat to the environment around us? Those are things that you're always assessing and that you always have to be ahead of. And then the better you are at being able to foresee, right? And then not just foresee, but then be able to execute on a mitigate, or be able to mitigate what you foresee. If you see an opportunity or a threat, the better that you'll be, the better off that you'll be. A lot of people that struggle in being able to have foresight, in any of these areas that I'm talking about, personal, professional, sports, whatever it is, they struggle with that because they don't have the foresight. So you say, well, why don't they have the foresight or able to foresee? A lot of that's because you allow yourself to get clouded. And this is one thing you got to look at for 2018. For those that are listening to the podcast or watching on Facebook Live, be careful about the noise. Okay. 2018 looks to be a noisy year. Okay. You've seen what's happened politically with the White House and everything associated with it. You see what happened locally in a lot of states and a lot of cities and things like that. You see what's happening with education. You see what's happening with entertainment. You see what's happening with everything that's around us. It's constantly evolving. It doesn't seem to be really set. Also keep in mind that it's been several years since we've gone through a recession. Remember the last recession officially ended. Now I'm getting into my business economist hat. The last recession ended sometime late 2009, first of 2010. So we're 7 going on 8 years since the last recession. It's still on a lot of people's hearts because for those of us that were adults and whatnot kind of going through it, it kind of had a lasting effect because it was so impactful, meaning this last recession, depression, whatever it is that you want to call it. But just know that whether it's next year, 2019, that's coming. All right. Now, when I talk from a business standpoint, business ownership, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, solopreneurship, you identify, plan, and execute such that you anticipate that that's going to come. There's going to be some downturn in the economy. Now, what's going to trigger it? Is it Bitcoin? Is it this or that or whatever it is that triggers the downturn? Historically speaking, that comes. And so the people that are able to progress and get through that are those people, those individuals, those companies, those marriages, whatever, that have planned ahead of time. So a marriage, if you're not able to put any kind of resources aside, if you're not set up to where you can withstand any kind of downturn in the economy with your job or with your business, it's something to begin looking at now. Don't wait till it's on CNN and then decide that, I want to run and start jumping on this or that. It's too late now. By the time someone on CNN starts talking about it, it's already been going. It's too late then. That's old news. That's old hat. You've got to be ahead of it right now. If you're married, you're going through these first early years and you want to plan for it, what would happen if this person's job or this person's business took a downturn? This person had to take a pay cut. Are we overextended on our debt? Do we have this student loan debt that's hanging over us? Do we have these car notes? Do we have this mortgage? Do we have daycare? Do we have all these different things? Are we top heavy? Are we fairly spread out? Those are things that you sit down with your spouse and that you're reviewing on a periodic basis. And you've got to be honest and truthful with it. And one of the things that execution does, through this whole process, and then when you get down to the execution, is it reveals character, right? Because everybody's good when the bank account's full and everybody's happy, you eating good, kids doing well in school, car starts when you start it, and all this kind of thing. Other family members seem to be doing well or doing better. Everybody's good then. All right. But what happens when those things start to get in the way? Those things get in the way of your intimacy. Those things get in the way of your ability to handle your obligations and things like that. That's where the reassessment within your execution comes into play. And that's where the character gets revealed. In the business, the character of the business owner gets revealed during tough times. Not when it's easy to make payroll and not when you're getting great reviews on Yelp and all that kind of thing. Okay? The character of the business owner comes into play when you're short on payroll and it's Wednesday. Payroll runs on Friday. And you go home and you've got people that are relying on you to make payroll so that they can handle their obligations. As a business owner now, as a husband for men, downturn comes. You were just at work. You're going from 40 hours to 32 hours, 40 hours to 28 hours. Your wife comes home. She was laid off today. Her hours were cut. The character gets revealed. In basketball, when Kobe Bryant missed those shots, so he airballed those shots that I talked about earlier, his character is revealed. What is he going to do? Does he shy away from the moment in the future? Say, no, don't give me the ball because I remember when I shot these air balls, or I'm not a good free throw shooter, so don't give me the ball at the end of the game and all that kind of thing. What did Kobe do? He went back and worked on his game. He went all the way back to the identify stage, identify, plan, execute, reassess. So then what happens? Okay? He gets that opportunity again in the future. He's gone through this process within his preparation, his identifying preparation. So now when it's time to execute, he knows, here's where I prefer to be on the floor. Here's the shot I need to take. Here's who's guarding me. Here's how they're trying to play me, right? They're trying to let me shoot. They're trying to make me drive. They want me to pass. I understand how the other team's going to defend me. And that's an analogy for life. You have to understand how life's going to play you. This whole thing's a game, like I told you. Take your year and put it into 4 quarters, just like a basketball game. You have first, second, third, fourth quarter, right? And your mentality is somewhat different sometimes in each one. Your goal's the same, but what you're trying to accomplish in each one is what it is. Hey, Denise, how you doing? Great afternoon to you. Danny, how you doing? Good afternoon. But that's what it's about. Kobe Bryant missed those shots. He shot those air balls. And this is what happens with some people when they don't have success. And keep in mind, everybody's watching. He's not in the gym by himself shooting them air balls. He's in a stadium or an arena with 20,000 people. He's got Hubie Brown and everybody calling the game. He's on NBC with millions of people watching him shoot these air balls. Public. Right? He could have easily, like some people, he could have became pessimistic. Maybe this ain't for me. Maybe I'll go play baseball, or maybe I'll go get a job, or, I'm going to shut the business down because, I got a bad Yelp review and everybody saw it. I can't go delete it. Right? So now that I want to give up, man, forget this business. I'm gonna go back to waiting tables. Or the other thing you hear is, I'm gonna move from Memphis and I'm gonna move to Dallas because there's an opportunity there. I'm gonna move to here, and there may be. It's not to knock that at all. But if you haven't gone through your process, your identify, plan, and execute, leaving Memphis ain't gonna help you, because no one's gonna give you anything any more in Atlanta than they're gonna give you in Memphis or Miami, because you're gonna have to grind. You're gonna have to identify, plan, execute, and assess wherever you go. You go to DC. Just more people to compete with. The 1 million people in Memphis, the 3 million or 4 million, however many are in that DC area. They're all competing for the same thing. Nobody's giving you anything everywhere. You've got to be able to identify, plan, and execute. That's the key to it. And so in Kobe Bryant's case, it's an analogy for everybody else. He went, worked on his game, he assessed it, and then the next time, not to say he didn't have any other failures, obviously, in the rest of his career, but in this particular instance, he was able to rebound from that. And then what happens, the next year, the year after? Now he's hitting clutch shots. He's hitting game-winning shots. Some players fold under that. They spend the rest of their career. They don't want to be on the floor in the fourth quarter. They don't want to have the ball in their hands. They don't want to take the shot. Some business owners are like that. They take a hit reputationally. They take a hit on Facebook. Something within the family comes into play, and then now I don't want to be involved. I want to be hands off. So I become pessimistic. I become scared, fearful, right? And they don't want to come back and go through the process. But like I say, that's where the character is revealed. In the marriage, I want out because she said this or he did that or whatever, right? So they're quick to throw in the towel because they don't want to go back and do the identify, plan, execute, reassess, particularly for themselves. In a marriage situation, it's easy to point at the other person. And typically, in all three, look at the Grizzlies right now. When losing sets in, the Grizzlies started the year hot, right? Fairly healthy. They come out the gate. They've beaten the Golden State Warriors. They've beaten the Houston Rockets, twice, right? They start out the number 1 seed after the first 5, 6, 7, 8 games. After turning over a lot of their veterans. But what happened? Who knows, right? But what you can pinpoint some of that to is When they started losing, the character was revealed, right? The character of the front office, the character of the players, coaches, everybody. It gets revealed, right? Now they struggling to try to win a game every other week or so. They went a whole month without winning one. And then they're beating teams that are just as bad, if not worse than them. Right? Now all of a sudden conflict comes into play between, like we talked about, Marc Gasol and Coach David Fizdale. Those things don't arise when you're winning. They come out when you're losing. And what you have to do when you start losing, and this is something to take with you in the 2018, if you find yourself losing, you get off to a slow start in the first quarter. Second quarter doesn't maybe go as well. Whatever it is, go back, identify, plan, execute, reassess. Go back through your progression. Okay? Other things are going to take place. So, there's some third-party things that came into play that affected teams like the Grizzlies, right? But what's the difference with the Grizzlies this year? You don't have the veterans. There's nobody in their locker room that's going to hit somebody in the mouth when they lose. Like TA, like Z-Bo, Vince Carter, even Troy Daniels. Troy Daniels, one of the top shooters in the league, young veteran. They paid to let him go, right? And so you don't have guys there. There's something about your culture that's very important with this, especially when you're executing. With Kobe Bryant, he's at the Lakers culture. That's a culture known for winning championships. He's got Magic Johnson there. He's got James Worthy. He's got Jerry West. He's got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's got people Byron Scott. He's got people that have won, that they built a culture of winning, from the ownership, the GM, all the way down. So when he misses those shots, he's got people there mentoring to support him, other older teammates and whatnot. Same in your marriage. Who do you go to, when you need that kind of mentorship, that kind of support? You got to make sure that you have that, right? Because when you start losing, you got to go back and do the reassessment. And you need people that are going to be honest with you on your critique. If you just get a bunch of yes people, right, around you just to tell you this or that, if you get a lot of people around you that don't have the experience that you have, they haven't been through it. Now, how does it look like Kobe Bryant going to somebody who's never played basketball, right, or never played at any kind of high level to tell him how he should handle shooting 3 air balls? Maybe there's somebody out there that could do that, right? But not likely. Not likely. Everybody can read a book and know theory. But it's a different story, when you got 20,000 people and millions on TV watching you when you got the ball. All eyes are on you with the ball. All eyes are on you when you open the doors to that business and you're the owner. Majority owner, minority owner, president, CEO, whatever your title is. All eyes are on you in that marriage. Men, all eyes are on you in that marriage. Women. Where's your leadership and how does your character get revealed? So if you find yourself using, I'm encouraging you, if you find yourself losing, don't just wallow in it. Don't just throw out your whole plan out the window. Go back and reassess. And you'll be just fine. Kobe Bryant goes on to have a great career. He makes other mistakes. In marriage, you'll go on to make other mistakes. You'll have great joys. You'll have some really good calls. Women, you'll make some great calls in marriage. Men, you'll make some great calls too. In your business, you'll make some great calls. You'll have an idea that jumps off. You'll have a relationship that you foster that turns out to be profitable, not just materialistically or from a profit standpoint, but it becomes profitable to your whole being, to your whole business on many different fronts. But you got to identify, you got to plan, you got to execute, and then you've got to reassess. And if you do that and keep away the noise, like I talked about earlier, there's going to be a lot of noise. Politically, there's going to be noise. In the environment, there's going to be noise. In your family, there's going to be noise. Even within, whether it's your marriage, within the business, partners have different things going on. Your spouse has different things going on. When you're playing basketball, you might change coaches. New players come in. Players that you like go away. They get traded. They do other different things. It can get noisy. But the ability to focus, reassess, and then focus in your execution is what gets you over. You've got to have an insane kind of focus. You're not worried about every time, someone does this or who's dating who and worrying about all this other stuff. That's not even coming into play. And the thing is, how you know it's not coming into play for people is when it doesn't come to them to begin with. See, people only bring stuff to you when they know you're going to entertain it. So you can post on Facebook all day long, right? But at the end of the day, folks, if you entertain garbage, it's going to get brought to you. I see this all the time. Men, women, whatever. They complain about their timeline on Facebook. Why everybody's doing this and doing that. You control the timeline. But you don't want to. You don't want to take control. You want somebody to do it for you. You want the other person, well, they should just stop putting negative stuff on there. No, you control your timeline. You shouldn't be a slave to your timeline, right? You don't want to see negativity? Block them. Unfriend them. Matter of fact, you don't even have to do, Facebook make it so easy now that you don't even have to do any of that. You can select what you want to see in whatever order that you want to see it on Facebook. So there's no excuse. There's no need to just whine about it. And that's what you can't do in 2018. You can't go out here, have this great plan, execute some, and then the moment you get hit in the gut, you're whining. Right? Daryl, how you doing? Sonia, what's going on, girl? Tia, how you doing? Good afternoon to y'all. You can't just whine about it, right? You have to take ownership of it and go back and do that reassessment. Execute the plan. Don't let the plan execute you. Execute the plan. I'm excited about this series, man. I thank everybody who is, again, participating. I've gotten great feedback from people that have shared through inbox their stories, shared with me their plans on 2018. Those look really good. If there's any way that I can help anybody, please reach out to me. Make sure that you go to www.ireallymeanitpodcast.com. You can check the podcast out on all the different platforms, YouTube, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, all that kind of thing. Thank you for your attention and your support in 2017. I wish all of you a very happy and prosperous 2018. It's going to be time to get it. It's going to be time to get it. It's going to be time out for playing. If you find yourself, you've been playing, don't beat yourself up. If you find yourself that you've been playing in 2014 and 15 and 16 and 17, get serious, get real in 2018. And you got help. Don't just sit on the island. You got help if you reach out and you're supportive. Now, if you've been burning people and all that, then, not a whole lot I can do if you've burnt bridges. But I'm here to help you all. I love you all. I wish you all the best and success personally and professionally. And man, that's just what we do. This is the I Really Mean It podcast. Hey, listen, 2017 was phenomenal. I'm looking to give you more in 2018. As I said, Brittany Thornton's going to join us on next week. We'll be live. We'll be on Facebook Live. We'll also be here on the podcast talking with her. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, promote your business, promote your organization, promote your endeavors, I love to do that. Let me know. You can join here on the video. You can come be with me, and we'll do it live. I'm mobile. I can come wherever you're at. Shout out to Paul Young. I did his show a couple weeks ago. So let's just do it. Listen, be great in 2018. Peace.